All right, guys, thanks a lot for being here for the Ivy Men's Basketball Roundtable. Honored to be part of it. I've obviously played against some of you on the court, on the sidelines. It's been, I love being part of this league and talking about our league. I'm excited to be here. The first topic we're going to start with is recruiting. And given the nature of what's going on in college basketball, obviously about a year ago now was the FBI investigation. There's been a lot of things that have come out of that. The commission has released their findings. You've got the NCAA releasing different things they're going to change. And I'll start with the most tenured coach here, being at the same school with James. What do you think the nature of recruiting is within the college basketball ecosystem, or on a larger scale right now?
I think that you're always going to have issues in recruiting. Certainly I think there are 351 Division I basketball programs in the country. I would suspect there are 320 or so that do things the right way or the correct way that you don't have issues with. And there are a few select groups out there that do have issues and they do things a little differently. The one great thing about being in this conference is that's not something or a pool that we swim in. It's not something that we ever have to deal with on a regular basis, and it makes what we do really special because you're dealing with people who want to go to school and do things the right way. And that's something that I've been able to deal with and experience the last 20 years. And it's something that keeps me at Yale and keeps me feeling good about what I do for a living.
To chime in on what James said, I think more people are doing it right than are doing it wrong. It's unfortunate that sometimes, obviously, the few that aren't doing it the right way, that kind of captures everyone else in our whole industry and our business. But I do think there are more folks and more programs and coaches that are doing it the right way.
Mitch, do you find when you go into people's living rooms now, are parents asking questions about that, or does that make your discussion, to James's point, a little bit easier given the nature of what the Ivy League is and what the Ivy League represents?
I always feel like the conversation, that when we go into rooms, I think the conversations generally are easy right away because we're all there for the same reason. The families, and I think from our perspective, we're looking at the student athlete, and I would agree here. For a large part, I think everybody's doing it the right way. But I do think the conversations that we're getting is even getting easier and better because there's more information. And I always say to all the kids are getting way smarter. Than when we were in school. They seem to have more of an understanding of what the Ivy League can do for them in the long run.
Obviously, the league has improved a lot. It's good I'm 34 because I couldn't have played in this league now. There's just a 0 chance I could have been on any one of these teams. How have you guys, we'll start with Steve, how hard is it, or how are you finding a way to have success in recruiting against other Power 5 teams and Power Conference teams and succeeding and getting recruits at a really high level that we've seen over the last decade or so in this league?
I think it goes back to these families now, more educated, understanding what a degree from one of these schools means to their child. The level, since you played, has gotten much higher, in particular length, athleticism, and now we're getting ranked kids. I think a couple of years ago we had 7 top 150 kids. I think it speaks for all these programs individually, but collectively, the league itself is a great product. The education, the level of basketball, it's what families are looking for now.
I think that product gives you instant recognition. Name recognition. So you can go in and you can call someone from across the country, and because you have that recognition, you now have time to build a relationship and educate them on what the opportunity is for them.
I think we've all done a really good job, too, of identifying the kind of kids that fit our institutions, and not that other people haven't in the past or won't do it in the future, but I think all of us sitting here have recognized who we represent and trying to identify those particular kids and families that would value what we can offer. And I think it makes a big difference when you're really targeting, and even kids who are ranked higher. I think you're finding that kids are looking for a particular kind of opportunity, and we represent certain brands that have been pretty magical for a lot of kids out there.
I also think that the group of men here do a great job at making our kids better. I think we do get a great group of young men that have been highly recruited and at a high level in our league, but we make them better. I think that's what's really important, the improvement that kids have over the course of their 4 years at our institutions, and how daily they get out and they get after their business. And speaking for me at Yale, I know I have a lot of guys on my roster that just really love basketball, and that they're in the gym all the time.
I think everyone here does do a good job of helping guys get better. once you recruit the most talented player you can, now how do you help them get better? But so much of that credit goes to obviously the student athlete, because they're the ones that are receptive to the coaching. They're the ones that are putting in the hours outside of practice time. And I think the league is in a great spot right now, and I only see it getting better.
I love the fact you said love of the game. You're finding very high achieving young men, and they have to love the game because they're balancing it with this elite academic experience, and you need to get these guys that are intrinsically motivated and that can work throughout the year.
People in this game, I think, have seen this league change and seen the talent within this league, especially in the last 5 to 10 years. But Brian, I'll ask you this question. Are there still misconceptions that you're battling when you go out on the recruiting trail that are negative stereotypes of the Ivy League that was or the Ivy League that exists now?
I think a little. You know, from a step back, I think people think, you know, only basketball is played in the Power 5 conferences or the major conferences. And I think what people, and more with how well the league has done over the years, is that really good players realize that this is a really good value for them, that they come here, they get an Ivy League degree, they're talking about the rest of their lives rather than just foregoing a scholarship. And when you have a really nuanced family and nuanced people who understand that and will make the sacrifice to do that, you're going to get all boats sort of rising. And I think that's what's happened in the last few years here, where everyone's competing for a high-level student athlete. And we're after exceptional people, and I think in the end, the exceptional people will choose to do something like this.
I quickly realized in this league how good the coaching is. These guys are really fun to coach against, and that they all, James already said it, they do a great job, you know, getting our guys better. You know, so I think that the coaching itself really helps to bring in a high-level student athlete.
Part of the success of all the teams is that we are different than the rest of college basketball in a lot of ways. One is, rarely does anyone transfer or leave our program. That's something that allows us to grow and help these kids, as James said earlier, develop, because we're keeping guys. They know what they have when they're in the institution. They want that degree, and hence it helps your basketball team grow. Where the rest of college basketball, unfortunately, has a lot of kids leaving programs. We're able to keep that continuity.
Well, you talked at the beginning of your question about perception. And I think there are some still negative perceptions about us. You know, we're a backdoor cutting, slow down style of basketball, and that's not really who we are over the long haul of our 8 programs. And I think that with the advent of more television, being on ESPN, and having people watch us play and have success at the same time, and you know, you're scoring in the 70s and the 80s, and now that perception is starting to slowly change a little bit. And when people see that and then notice that, well, not only are we the best schools in the country academically, well, basketball-wise, we're really good as well. That we can go out and compete with some of the best schools in the country. And when you do that, now it's a little bit easier. We've had some success, and other teams here have had success outside the conference and NCAA tournament. And now kids who've seen those games and watch it play when they were 9, 10, 11, 12, now it's one of those things that now they're 18 years old, and it's one of those things that now they think, oh, geez, I can do that now. Right? Whereas before we didn't have the exposure that we have now. It makes it a little bit easier for them to see who we are.
Our league as a whole is incredibly balanced and very strong. I mean, I think obviously in years past, and maybe the tradition of the Princeton and the Penn, have been dominant. But I do think as you've watched our league develop and evolve, I think it's a great thing for people to see that there are places in this conference, all 8 teams, where you can have significant impacts and opportunities to play high-level basketball.
Obviously, the competition between all you guys is fierce to get these players, and recruiting is difficult, and it's the lifeblood of a program. An interesting thing has developed in the last few years here within our league. Some programs going to grants where others are still offering financial aid. So, Jim, I'll pose that question to you: how difficult is it to, within that situation within this league, to compete with that situation existing right now?
Well, I think it's unique in the fact that obviously we're not offering full scholarships, but I think it's a true sense of the educational component of being a student athlete, because kids and their parents are investing in their education, and I think it makes it more important. It makes it special for them as they go through this, knowing what they've accomplished, and I think when the kids graduate from here with all the different things that they get from an Ivy League education, with the mentoring and the internship opportunities and all that stuff, it really becomes almost a priceless scholarship for a lifelong type scholarship.
James, you mentioned the exposure. You're talking about people being able to see this. Ivy League did a deal with ESPN, 10-year exclusive deal. Every game's going to be on ESPN Plus, but then there's games on linear TV as well. Mike, how big do you think having that, again, will that add even more exposure, that component to this league now, given that deal and the length of it?
Yeah, it's going to be great because I think when people turn on their TVs, they're going to see really high-level basketball. They're going to see talented players. They're going to see talented players who are really coachable and want to play the right way. And they're going to see, teams that can compete at the highest level. I mean, we look at our league every year, and we know we have to be ready to play against some of the best, coach teams and some really talented teams, when we get into league play. So the exposure that we'll get on ESPN will be outstanding for us, and I think people will start seeing that, every team in this league has some guys who can probably play anywhere in the country, and that's not an exaggeration.
Yeah, let me speak to that point. Our last pro that came out of the league was Jeremy Lin. When Jeremy was a senior, he was not the best player in our conference. He worked hard afterwards, he got an opportunity, and he flourished. I think that what you will see here in the next, 5 to 10 years are other young men who play for us that are going to be able to play at that next level. There's certainly enough kids that are able to now, given the opportunity, going back to your question two questions ago, that perception. I think the perception about our guys are changing. You hear from scouts, they're at our practices, they're at our games, watching our players and watching our league, because there are a lot of guys in our league that have an opportunity to play at that next level.
Having, Ivy League is a brand. From an educational standpoint, it's everybody knows it in the world. And along the lines of being involved with a brand like that, and being involved with ESPN, now allows us for our kids to get national exposure that they might not have gotten from just being regional. And I think that furthers our basketball opportunities as well, especially for our student athletes.
It's so fun just being able to express to a recruit or his family, everything that you can experience beyond basketball. Like, basketball sometimes is almost the smallest piece of discussion when you're in a house. And it's just, let's talk about the alumni network, let's talk about the people you're going to meet on campus, let's talk about the campus culture you're going to be part of. I mean, that's what makes it really unique, is this is so much beyond what basketball truly is. And now let's put the icing on the cake. Let's talk about our vision for you as a player and how we're going to hopefully make you become the best version of yourself. And I think when you combine those two, it's a really special thing.
What I really always enjoy is when the recruits and families can spend time with our current players. Mm-hmm. And I think, and that's true for all of us, when you're most of our institutions, you're on campus. Kids across the hallway are speaking multiple different languages. They got a lot of talented things going on in their life and a lot of talent in their life to share with others. And so there's a growing process, not just with our programs, but with these kids, my seniors, when they sort of lead discussions with the rest of the guys. And they say, these are the things that we are. This is how I manage my week. We got big games that week, but this is how I go through it. It doesn't just show well for the program. It says a lot about the kids' growth over the course of the 4 years. I think that's what this is all about, is not just there's just a lot of talent in the league, but I think it's about getting better on and off the court all the time.
Scheduling. How difficult is it to schedule and find quality opponents out of conference that are going to help you, potentially your seeding process? How hard is it to schedule?
It's difficult to schedule because just what we've all been talking about. Most of the teams in our league are playing like a team. Mm-hmm. And they're really committed to each other, and there's talented teams. This is not an Ivy League level. There's good players in the league. So right away, most of the coaches in the country know that. Secondly, there's way more exposure. The world's a lot smaller, and so people see us play. But I think I like to look at it a slightly different way. Is just it's difficult to schedule, but that's exactly what you'd want. You want to. I think the whole league's like, let's take on all challengers. And but while we're doing that, we're not going to miss class. Yeah. And there's some parts about this that I think we're proud of.
This is the smallest league in the country, the most balanced in terms of equal. You play each other in a round robin, but there's a lot of games to schedule out of conference, which is good. You can be creative. There's a lot of other ways opponents to play. But there's no doubt, when I was in the league prior in the 2000s, you can get almost any game you wanted. But now, just the level of play now in this league has stopped teams from that would typically schedule you from thinking twice for sure.
RPI is dead. I'm happy about that. I hope you guys are too. It's an antiquated
Absolutely.
metric from 1981. But now the NCAA has their new tool, the NCAA evaluation tool. That's kind of a bunch of different metrics mixed in. Tommy, I'll go to you. In terms of them changing this metric, does that, I know guys in the past have tried to schedule for their RPI. Like, how does this change as far as the evaluation tool, or does it affect you and your program?
Honestly, I don't think it will affect us or place that kind of value on it. We just need to win. And I think we all know that. So whoever we have on our schedules, we need to have games that we've shown that we can win. Away from home is obviously very important. We are going to schedule some very challenging games, some challenging teams, as Mitch just said and as Steve just mentioned. But the bottom line is we have to win those games. And so we can get into the numbers and the metrics, and the bottom line is we have to have the W's.
Steve, how do you measure success when you think about the league, when you look back at the season? Is it from a collective standpoint, obviously you're evaluating your program first and foremost, but is it how many wins had at a conference? Is it tournament success, if there was tournament success? Like, what do you see as success for the league if you look at trying to evaluate each season, or just progress moving forward?
Yeah, I think it's difficult to, as a coach at one place, to judge how our league did overall. However, I thought last year was a good league, a good season for us in the sense that none of us really relied on senior leadership. We have every single first and second team all Ivy League player coming back. I think the next 2 years, this league's going to be terrific. I think all of us as individuals really value how much potential was reached in our programs. How well did we develop and grow during the year? Did we get the maximum out of each kid? That's kind of how I look at it. I'm sure these guys similarly.
Ivy Madness, head into year 3 of the conference tournament now. We'll be at Yale this year. Brian, I'll ask you the question though. How have you felt? You played you got your team in the first inaugural tournament. How have you felt the tournament has been so far and having that process? And how do we grow it as we move forward?
It was a great experience. One of the things that it does is it keeps everything competitive. And we've already touched on it, but this team from top to bottom, this league has been ultra competitive, in this past season it was especially that way, where it came down to the last night of the season to see who was going to get in. And so I think it just, as Ivy League student athletes, these kids want to compete in every way, in the classroom, on the court. And I think the tournament has done that. It keeps everyone working until the season's over, and that can last to the last day.
I think the best thing about the tournament now is it really completes the student-athlete experience for our guys, because I think, when you're a kid, everybody looks at March Madness, they look at one shining moment, they see the NCAA tournament. That's always what everybody gets in the college basketball to play in. And unfortunately for someone like yourself, the realism was if you lost 2 or 3 games, you probably weren't going to be able to have a chance to play in the NCAA tournament back when you played. And now our guys go into every season knowing you play great in your non-conference, you play great in your conference, and then you always have that last 4 games now, or the last 2 games, so you have 4 teams, and it gives everybody a feel for March Madness. So just like Brian was saying, I mean, last weekend was crazy. Everybody's looking at the scores, and everybody knows there's something to play for.
As I touched on the beginning, it's been a big year in college basketball with some negative repercussions. But I just want to take it a little broader with this part of it, just to address those issues. Some rule changes, whether how they enforce rules, a lot of stuff around one and dones came out. But Mike, I'll ask you, what were your takeaways from basically some of the rule changes and where we're at now versus where we were a year ago when the FBI investigation started?
Well, my takeaways are that there's not going to be a perfect solution to the situation that we're in. I think the Rice Commission took their job seriously, and I think they made some great recommendations to the NCAA, and I think that some very positive steps have been made. I think at the end of the day, the most important thing is the student athlete and their ability to have the best experience possible. And one specific thing that I think was a real positive step is if a young man was invited to the combine and wasn't drafted, he can go back to college. Why would we not want that young man to be able to continue his education? So I think that's, you know, a really positive step, and I know there are other things that were done that I would say would be positive. Not everyone's going to be happy, but I think it's a small step forward, and I think that the game will continue to get better. Like these guys said earlier, most everyone in college basketball are doing things the right way, and you know, I think we need to focus on that and all the great things that are going on in our game right now.
It allowed the coaches to really talk about topics and share ideas and thoughts and some things you might normally talk about, especially when you're on the road recruiting. Everyone's in a very competitive atmosphere, you know, but this summer is a little different. You're actually talking about it and getting thoughts and ideas, and you know, ideas you can bring back to your campuses.
Mike, you kind of touched on this, but I do want to quote the commission. They said, "The commission believes that the answer to many of college basketball's problems lies in a renewed commitment to the college degree as the centerpiece of intercollegiate athletics." Tommy, I'll ask you, does that statement just essentially just reinforce what you do daily?
Absolutely. I think it's a testament for who we are and where we are in terms of our conference and our institutions, and it leads us to places where we're excited that we represent these kinds of places, and we want those kind of kids. And I think this, sometimes when you go through something hard and tough and you find your way through it, you're better off on the other side. I think we're headed in that direction with college basketball.
What we do and how we do it is a tremendous model, and you know, folks could kind of take a look take a page out of our book in terms of how it works, and I think college basketball and college athletics would be much better off.
The model is great, and part of the uniqueness of this experience is the kids across the hall that may be speaking multiple languages and all these different things that open up a young man's mind and his eyes to a whole different world. How aggressive are your kids in being able to leverage some of that stuff and experience different things outside of basketball on these unique campuses and with these unique experiences?
Well, I think everybody's coming at it from a different angle. You know, most of us recruit from all over the country. You know, some from single parent families, and you know, both parents around. And you know, what I try to say is, you know, widen your circle. You know, try to, you're not just on the basketball team, because that's going to be there, but you know, and say yes to as many things as you can when you're first arriving on campus, so you get an opportunity to, you know, maybe you help somebody move in, you know, and all of a sudden now you got a friend across the hallway that, I mean, for me, you know, the kid across the hallway is a neurosurgeon, you know, and I think it's a really valuable tool to encourage the guys at their own pace when they're comfortable to grow, and then, you know, it's sort of a walk along. You sort of got your hand on their back in the beginning, and then you're sort of doing it, you know, arm in arm, and then they're sort of off on their own. But I don't think it's aggressiveness at all. It's sort of here's some paths that have been taken in front of you. So listen to what maybe the older guys have gone through and how they kind of navigated it.
Brian, are guys, you feel like able to invest the time in other activities and other things on campus to really broaden their horizons, if you will?
Yeah, I think, you know, there's so many resources at our institutions to get our student athletes acclimated to the environment, and you know, it's not just basketball all day, and which it can be at certain institutions. And so, like I said before, these are exceptional kids, and so they come in knowing that they have to hit the ground running. But the best way to do that is to take advantage of everything that's offered at these places, and that is at an Ivy League institution is more than what you'll find anywhere else across the country. And so we, I think, as a group, do a great job of bringing kids in who are exceptional and can handle that. And so I think we have success on the court, but it's a testament to these guys that you know, our guys are succeeding by getting diploma as well. And I know somebody said they like coaching against these guys. I don't. I wish there were some cupcakes in the league, but it's not just on the court. I mean, I think if you go across the board with the graduates we're producing, in a few years they're going to be running things, and that's that's why they're coming.
Not only the opportunities on our campuses, but you can leverage your campus education with when you walk outside the gates of the campus. Obviously being in Columbia, obviously having New York, and I've been to all these different places that we all have schools, and there's so many things that you could take advantage of off campus too. So it's a big education that you get, not only with the education you get from your degree.
We're going to wrap it up. Final question for you guys. I want everybody to answer. We can start with James, go down the front row, and then David, and come down and finish with Tommy. What are some key things as you think about the future of the league and the health of the league, but that you want to see happen to drive further success, like we said before, to build? What are the next steps toward progress, essentially?
Well, I think we're starting to do it now. I think the exposure for television, that's really important for us. I think that helps move the needle. And that's going to help with recruiting, and then recruiting is going to help with advancing our team somewhat. So if we continue to move in that direction, our league's going to continue to get better and better.
Yeah, I think we'll keep doing our job, but the visibility, we said it before, but when you think about athletics on TV, you think ESPN, and when you think about the highest level of education in the world, you think the Ivy League. And so when you start putting those things together and put it in front of people, we don't have to do much of a sales job. It sells itself. But the more that we can promote that and get families comfortable with that being what they want, the highest level of both, that these are the places for you.
Yeah, I think at all our schools we're surrounded by excellence, and I think that's just the way the league's going now. I think when our student athletes come and are coached by the coaches sitting here, like, they're not only going to get an unbelievable education, but these kids are coming here to play in the NBA. So, I think we all go about our business like that. So there's no way that the league is not going to continue to improve.
I see, the Golden State Warriors guys doing internships in the summer and taking advantage of the things in Silicon Valley, and I think we double down in the Ivy League on who we are and what our institutions are about, which is a first-class, a world-class student-athlete experience. And then I think that separates us from other competitors, but it's also the right thing to be doing in terms of pursuing a four-year degree.
Yeah, so many great things, but I think you find guys that want to be in the Ivy League. There's so many times you find yourself on the phone and you can tell that individual on the other end doesn't quite get it. And I think you just got to find young men that just totally want to buy in and understand what that experience is, because if they understand it, they're going to get the most out of it.
It is all about recruiting. I think we all realize that. And our ability to continually challenge each other and get better players who are better students and fit the mold that we want, that's going to better our league. And that's honestly going to get us a second team. We keep getting outstanding student athletes. That's what's going to enable us to get another team into the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, we're continuing to recruit at the level that I think the league is right now, Dallin. The exposure is certainly helping. This is an unrivaled experience, the Ivy League, and I think the combination of academics and athletics and what you can achieve socially, it's unparalleled. You can't find that anywhere else. I know from my experience as a student, I felt that way, and I feel even stronger about that now, having been back coaching at my alma mater. So as long as these guys are here and they keep recruiting the way they're recruiting, we're going to have to continue to try to find a way to recruit the best we can. And I was telling somebody earlier, I've been on the phone with more NBA scouts this offseason than ever, and it's not just about some of the guys we have, but it's about everyone in the league. And I think that speaks to the future of the league. Every all-conference player is back, and I think the league is headed for a really exciting future.
Yeah, well, I agree with all these guys for the first time. But I really agree with what Mitch said about doubling down on who we are. I think it's shown that our model, as James had mentioned, is an exceptional model. And I think to continue down the path that we're on, I just think the future is incredibly bright.
Thanks a lot, guys. I appreciate it. And just to finish on that, I love this league and where you guys are going right now. This next year is going to be really exciting. I will tell you, every Saturday night I'm supposed to be talking about like Kentucky or something. I do have all your games on in the studio. Our engineers do not like that, by the way. But I'm really happy to be here. Thanks for your time. Really enjoy it and really excited about the season.
Thank you. Thank you.